We can speak now to Sir Iain Duncan Smith, former Conservative leader and co-chair of the Interparliamentary Alliance on China. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Now, you're a man who knows all too well about the challenges, the threats from China, someone who's sanctioned, targeted by the Chinese government for speaking out against many things, not least human rights abuses there. What was your reaction when you picked up the copy of the Times today and saw not only that these charges, obviously, as we now know, have been dropped, but also the reaction from the Speaker?
Well, I already knew what the reaction from the Speaker was because I had a private conversation with him as soon as this was done, as did others. The reality is that he's been pretty good throughout by banning the Chinese ambassador from Parliament whilst people are sanctioned, and he's been very good about making sure this stays at the top of the agenda. So he was pretty angry. I have to tell you that I was given a very deep, secure briefing 2 years ago when this all started, when the agencies discovered that there had been these two characters in another organisation in Parliament and had been essentially spying. Now, they were absolutely clear this was a bang-to-rights prosecution, that there was no problem about it at all. They had all the relevant evidence. That evidence would, they felt, safely convict them, even though it was being done under the Official Secrets Act, which is the old act that goes right back, although it's been updated, which has this peculiar definition of if you're leaking or you're handing information over to what they would define as an enemy, and that is a little bit more difficult to define, whereas the new act that's gone through defines this as just being an agency of intelligence. But however, given all of that, they said there was no question at all, and I understand from one or two people that we've spoken to that they felt this was going in the right direction. And then all of a sudden, at the last moment, the CPS step in and kill the prosecution, and we still have no answer from the CPS properly as to why they decided to do that, why all of a sudden, after 2 years of work on this and a belief that this would be okay, did they suddenly step in and stop it. So there are lots of things are going around at the moment about why they might have done it, including politicians' involvement.
Well, I wanted to ask you about that. Is that what you believe, there was political involvement?
Well, until the CPS comes clean and tells us exactly what their reason is, they come up with this sort of, the most we've heard is that they say, well, of course, it is going to be too difficult to get a prosecution. Well, how do you suddenly go from absolutely certain to too difficult? There's got to be something else in the mix on this one. And I think, we're seeing a lot of pressure from China on the UK because the new government is dead keen on getting some kind of trade arrangement. So we're seeing them trying to give away this ridiculous mega embassy in London, which nobody wants. Americans are very unhappy about it, and we are all, because it sits in a critical part of London, and it will be they're allowed to have 200 more people, spies, in their embassy. So this is going on. They're kowtowing to them. They're sending ministers over constantly to talk about trade arrangements. And President Xi has made it clear to them, one, he wants the embassy, and I think two, he must have made it clear to them that he doesn't want this prosecution. So I have a very cynical understanding of where the government has been on this one.
Do you believe there are people operating now in Westminster, in the House of Parliament, spying on MPs?
I think it's more likely than not. I think that for a while it's been too open, although now the parliamentary security services are much improved. But, we've seen them hacking into accounts. We've seen them already with these two accusations, but there have been more which have had no further pressure on them. And I think the real problem about this is if you operate an open parliament, which is, believe it or not, what democracy is all about, you always run a greater risk that they will use this as a backdoor into intelligence gathering. I mean, the truth is we're just hearing about Russia incursions over the Baltic, etc., and in Estonia, and also in Romania, and in Poland. And what you're getting from these people is that they're all linked together. China, Russia, Iran, North Korea. We're living in la-la land at the moment in the government, thinking that somehow China will be all right. They are absolutely locked together. China supports Russia with weapons, for God's sake. It's got North Korea involved with them. Iran has been giving them these drones. They work together. They are an axis of authoritarian states. And everything they do is coordinated now, and we are in a mess over in the West. It's taken us ages to get sorted out over NATO, over spending. We haven't got enough military equipment sitting in NATO. America's quite right about criticizing us, but now President Trump doesn't seem to want to focus too much on this. But I agree with the last speaker who was speaking to you just now, the ex-deputy Sacker, is that we have to be much clearer about what our responses are. The best response right now to Russia and China is not to tolerate a single element of any of this. We need to be cracking down on them with regards to sanctions over their war in Ukraine, really significant sanctions. Western Europe has been buying their damn oil, for God's sake, even though they said that they were sanctioning. I mean, it's oil that's repurposed through India, of course. We didn't buy Russian oil. The reality is that China is buying all their oil so they get the money flowing to them. Every bit of this is coordinated on their side. And our problem right now is we are not as NATO as one. That is my concern.
I want to ask you as well, before you go, just give us an example of ways that you have been targeted, that you have seen this within Westminster, or indeed people that you have spoken to.
I had, until we dealt with it, a wolf warrior who spent his time impersonating me around the world, making statements that I was supposed to have made, saying what a wonderful man President Xi was and how brilliant the Chinese government was and what a decent lot they were, and how I had given up my ridiculous and repressive views about China, and I was now ready to extol the virtues of this remarkable country. This was going to all sorts of various senators and others around the world, including the States and parts of Europe. And I was getting these emails back to say, why are you sending me this stuff? And often from people I'd never met before. And my answer was, we discovered that it was a wolf warrior. Wolf warriors are low-level operatives in China that are pinned to some particular individual to try and make their life as difficult as possible. And this one we discovered was working out of Hong Kong. I mean, this is what they do. China never stops. They're not interested that you try and rebuff them. They will carry on. And until they see strength and determination instead of kowtowing, as we seem to be doing at the moment, then we're going to get this in spades, and it's just going to get worse. 200 new spies coming into that embassy. Quite astonishing, really, when you think what they're doing already to the Hong Kong dissidents that fled Hong Kong. They're now trying to round them up. They've been sending out rewards to people who are living in the same area for them. If they will bring them in, they will get a significant reward. Can you believe that? And also at the same time, they're bringing their families in and threatening these Hong Kong Chinese and dissidents. Unless they come back, they will deal with their families. I mean, this is
it's just the level and the depth of
nation.
it.
This is an aggressive, anti-Western nation that thinks that the UK is soft, and that's what they're using us for.